Walk with me. So I was asked to be on a podcast the other day. It was a really interesting conversation. I'll let you all know when it goes live. Maybe I'll push it out on my podcast so you can hear the full episode. But a topic came up on influence. And it was phrased in a way I'd never been asked before and made me think in a way I've never thought before about that concept, influence. So interesting. I can really vividly remember growing up, and I'm sure it wasn't just me, my whole generation. People would ask you what you wanted to be when you got older, and you'd have the typical answers of, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a professional. Yet you ask the generation today, one of the top answers they'll give is, I want to be an influencer. The world we live in. But when I say the word influence, I'm not just referencing influencer, I'm not referencing a number of fans or followers or even a metric by any means, but rather the true sense of the word influence. To be able to get somebody to believe what you believe, to move where you want to move, to influence by a true sense of the term. And a giant misconception I think the world has on what is true influence, what creates it, how do you get it, how do you have more of it. And I want to share that conversation with you all today, rather in the form of really what it's not. And I promise you, it's not going to be what you think it is. And really through my life and my experience, an equation, 3 parts to influence. I think it's going to be a good one no matter who you are, what you do, entrepreneurs out there, creators out there, those ready to make the leap. I think this will be a valuable topic for y'all. But first, I want to know who's by my side. You see the sun shining here today. Hey, don't be shy. Say hello below. Drop a comment. No hiding behind the screens. Who's to my left? Who's to my right? Where are you from? Tell me something good. Make me smile. I love our time together. I see you. I see you. If you're new to the crew, welcome. Join the tribe. We walk together live, usually around the same time, same day. Walk with me Wednesdays if you want to put it in the calendar. We're pretty consistent, aren't we? And you can catch past conversations on the podcast Alive by Design. Just search Alive by Design, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, Audible, all the places. Go subscribe. We've had some good ones. And the only thing I ask if you're here with us is that you collaborate. This isn't a monologue, as if we're all together in unity, side by side, one global crew. Give me your perspective, give me your opinion, add some value. I read everything, and it adds value not only to me, but everybody walking with us globally today, as we have this conversation on influence. How would you define it? What's influence? What comes to your mind? Who comes to your mind? And I'll give you the context of the question. It was actually a follow-up from an initial question that someone asked me of how I first got introduced to the industry that I'm in 21 years ago. Isn't that crazy? When I first got introduced to community-based marketing, direct sales, entrepreneurship, whatever label you want to give it. And I told the true story, and I'll give you the abbreviated version, but the short answer is AOL Instant Message. How many of you guys remember AOL? I am ding came on middle of a night while I'm sitting in my dorm room freshman year, UCSD. Old high school acquaintance, not even a close friend. Simple question. Hey, you want to make some extra money? To which I replied a simple answer. Sure. Literally, that was my answer. To which he replied, hey, show up here tomorrow, this place, this time, neighboring college campus. To which I replied, sure. In hindsight, it's a funny story because, like, that could have been anything. Late night on a college campus, random question. Shows you how unassuming I am, how believing I am, maybe naive I am, especially back then. It said, sure, and truth to the matter, I just didn't want to go alone. I didn't know what I was going to, where I was going, who I was going. I knew nothing. So I've always been a fan of power and numbers, right? Hey, so I ended up just running around my dorm room floor that day and just asking everybody to go with me with zero context because I didn't know where I was going. And ended up getting about a dozen or so people to roll with me to a neighboring college campus to see something of which none of us had any idea. Now, mind you, for those of you guys that know network marketing, community-based marketing, direct sales, I had no idea what it was, never heard it. Definitely had no idea that you're supposed to invite people to learn about it. And all of a sudden, the people hosting the event are like, who's this guy here for the very first time from a different college that brought all these people? They thought I was somebody. They thought I must have been important. Such a funny story, my introduction into the industry. And when I was having the conversation the other day on the podcast, they're like, well, Blake, you must have had some level of influence to get a bunch of people to go somewhere randomly. And it was an interesting question because I'd never thought about it that way. Because here's the reality. By traditional definition, I was nobody of influence. I was a freshman college student, surfer kid. Half the time my hair was either bleached or dyed at that time. I wasn't the quarterback, the star athlete, the head of a fraternity, the cool guy, the party goer. Didn't have the family name, the pedigree. Wasn't in any certain position. Only job I'd ever had was a high school pool lifeguard. I wasn't, by traditional definition, someone of influence. And then it dawned on me in answering the question that I think all of our perceptions of what influence really is totally messed up. And you guys, I've found that through my career. I've never been on a piece of paper a person of influence. Yet by the time I was, 31, I built a company that was valued over $1 billion. I had 500 employees. I had doctors working for me, lawyers working for me, corporate professionals united around the company mission and culture, a movement of tens of thousands of people around the world. But on paper, high school pool lifeguard, no importance in my last name, nothing that makes me special or separated. Nothing by traditional definition you would call influence. Definitely wasn't Instagram or TikTok back then. There was barely Facebook in the later part. Which made me think about that word and that topic of influence. And you guys, here's what I've learned in my experience. Influence is not what you think it is. And you don't have to have what you think you have to have it. Influence is not a last name. It's not a job title. It's not a number of fans or followers. It's not the charismatic person at the party. Sure, all of those can move people and all of those can have some degree, but guys, none of those are a prerequisite because true influence, in my opinion, is much deeper than any of that on the paper. And in reflection, I answered the question. I said, well, look, I think influence, at least in my experience, true influence, it starts with intention. Guys, there's one thing that I've always tried my best, and I can't say I've always been perfect, but if I were to cast forward and hope when it's all said and done on one thing that's a common thread of people that are able to say anything about me that have any connection is, I hope one thing they say is, you know what? He's a guy that always did things with the right intention, for the right reasons, for the right people at that time. Doesn't mean there's always perfect decisions, doesn't mean there's not mistakes. But one thing I've always tried to do is, with the information I have at a moment in time, I try to make the best decisions I can at that moment, for the right reasons, for the right people. Now, sure, sometimes in hindsight, it might be the wrong decision, it might be a mistake, but in that moment, I always try to make sure my intentions are coming from the right place, not from a place of ego, not from a place of greed, not from a place of self-motive, but from a place of how do we do something in a moment that betters all. And not purely altruistic, myself included in all, but all. You guys, that's what intention is really about. It's not about being entirely selfless. You got to make sure you take care of yourself and your family, but it's about doing it with others, alongside others, adding value to others, not in spite of others or instead of others. That's what intention is. And I think when you approach any situation with the right intention, people feel that, people know that, and people trust that. And in order to influence, you have to establish some sort of trust. Someone has to realize that, hey, what you're saying is coming with the right energy, the right spirit in order to hear it. Because that's the beginning of influence. We want to believe and trust people that are worth believing in and trusting in, which starts with an intention, doesn't it? Now, the other thing, and again, this is in hindsight, that I think moves people is you have to do things with the right intention. That's the baseline. But then there's got to be some level of enthusiasm, right? There's got to be some level of genuine excitement, not fabricated hyperbole, not a mask you put on, but a true, genuine inner belief and passion that comes out in a energy. Call it enthusiasm. John Wooden's cornerstone on the pyramid of success, enthusiasm, right? Call it energy, call it frequency, call it magnetism, call it whatever you want. It's all different words for the same feeling. There's got to be a vigor, an aliveness to it, which only comes from a real belief in what you're talking about, which only comes from a real passion in what you're talking about. But when you have a belief and you have a passion, and you combine that with that first statement, you're bringing that with the right intention to move a whole, you are going to move people. You are going to influence people. People follow people following a passion, fact. Fire is caught, not taught, fact. It's a feeling that you can transmit. It's funny, I did a call yesterday and I had someone hit me in my Instagram DM. I do read my DMs. I appreciate all the messages. Drop by at Blake Mallen, say hello at any time, especially after these conversations. Let me know what resonates. And someone said, you know, we got off a conversation and someone hit me in the DM and said, Blake, your energy is magnetic. To which I replied, everyone's energy is magnetic. That is the definition of energy. Everyone's energy is magnetic. My energy is no different than any other energy. We work the same way. We got the same functions. Everyone's energy is magnetic. When you're doing things with the right intention and you add an enthusiasm, everyone's energy is magnetic. That's how you influence. That's how you move. So it's intention times enthusiasm. Now there's one more point that I've found with a little bit of experience when it comes to influence. And that last point I'll say is times consistency. You see, you can't move somebody in a moment of inspiration, right? A moment of the right intention, a moment of the right excitement, if the next moment you don't have those two things. You guys, people value consistency, especially in a time of such uncertainty, especially in a time of such change, especially in a time where, man, everybody's sick of the politicians changing their stance based on the ratings of today's news channel. Everybody's changing their face based on what gets a reaction. Like, so much inconsistency. People are just sick of it, and our BS meters are higher than ever before. Inconsistency people run from. And you can't expect a moment of inspiration to move somebody, guys. It's not about a moment, it's about a consistency. But on the flip side, because we're in such a crazy time where there's so many people that are inconsistent, there's so many conditions that are inconsistent, you know what that does? That makes consistency even more valuable. That makes consistency an even more precious value. That makes consistency something that cuts through the noise even sharper than ever before. So you be consistent in that intention and consistent in that belief and enthusiasm. And when people see that you're consistent, you know what? They know it's not just a moment. It's not just something fleeting. It's not just a flavor of the week or flavor of the month or a here today, gone tomorrow, or a fad that you're on. People see a resolve. And you know what? People respect a resolve. And you know what? That type of resolve, that type of consistency, that influences. Think about it. Apply that equation. Intention times enthusiasm times consistency. Isn't that what you follow? Who comes to mind when you think about people that approach with the right intention, right? A viewpoint or perspective for the whole. They do it with the right energy or enthusiasm. It's exciting. It's infectious. And they do it consistently over time. So you know it's something you can rely on. Isn't that who you believe in? Aren't the leaders that you follow have those characteristics? Isn't that who you aspire to be? And here's the question. Don't you just want to believe what they believe? Don't you just want to go where they go? Isn't that the true nature of influence? Far beyond a job title, far beyond a last name, far beyond a bunch of followers, far beyond a metric we think influence is. Like, that's influence. And here's what's great about that equation. Anybody can have it. Anybody can have it. Matter of fact, you already have it. You already have that ability right now to do things for the right reasons, to figure out what lights your fire and to share it and to do it consistently through life. You can do that right now, make the decision in this moment, and watch what happens when it comes to moving people, inspiring people, influencing people. And here's the reality. You do that long enough, hey, all the metrics and all the stuff on the piece of paper will take care of itself. But it starts with that, not the other way around. In my humble opinion, from my personal experience. So thanks for the question last week on the conversation on influence. I never thought about it that way. But that's my perspective on really what true influence is. And take that in any way you want. That might be the people you choose to follow, but more so, I hope it's the person you choose to become. And work on those three things. Work on your intention. Work on your enthusiasm, work on your consistency. And those three things will come together in a way that starts moving people in a direction where you can create a change. You can be someone that inspires shift. You can help be a solution to challenges people are facing today. And that's what we need. People of influence with those characteristics. One more view from the top. Sun is up. Clear skies. Hey guys, let me know about the topic today. Hey, agree, disagree, any other perspectives? I know it's probably not what you thought and maybe a different perspective on that term influence, but wouldn't the world be great with a bunch of influencers with those characteristics around the world? I would love to live in that place, and I challenge you to become one of those persons to help create it. Hey guys, love ya. Drop by the podcast, subscribe, leave a review. I love the reviews. Apple Podcast puts them so far down. Go to Apple Podcast. Alivebydesign.com/subscribe is a quick way to it, or Apple Podcast, search the term. You got to scroll way to the bottom these days, but leave 5 stars, leave a review. I appreciate those. Share this with anybody that came to your mind or your heart, someone who has influence, someone that wants to. someone you feel needs the conversation. I know there's at least one person. Tag them below or press share. Until the next time we walk together for more inspired conversations, here's to elevating your influence in the right ways to make the impact you're